Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 23 December 2015 and I've got an initial review tonight for you on the Spyderco model number C11FPBORE Delica burnt orange in HAP-40 steel. I have two of them on the bench for you tonight. And the reason I have two of them on the bench is kind of interesting. Let's get rid of this one for a minute. My buddy and a longtime sharpening customer, Jesus, sent me an email, a week or two ago, that I was going to be receiving on his behalf a brand new Spyderco Delica 4 in burnt orange. The camera's going to have fun with this color on this background. And it is in HAP-40 HAP steel. And I thought, I guess I've seen that listed. I had no idea what it was. Knife came in, I opened the box, I looked at the handle color, and I went, man, that's cool. You see, green and burnt orange are kind of my colors. I know that sounds kind of, feminine, but green and burnt orange, my colors. This is way better than like a bright safety orange for me. This is gorgeous. It's a great orange. So, I get this knife and I see that it's definitely a Delica in laminated steel. I think you can see the line of demarcation. So what we've got is a Hitachi steel, HAP-40, laminated with, I believe, 410 stainless, in a very thin profile blade. Full flat ground Delica, modern generation FFG Delica 4. And kind of neat, I think, that Spyderco does this. A wide range of Delicas over the years and Enduras over the years, sort of used as, test mules for interesting sort of boutique steels. So you can sort of sample exotic or different or steels we don't see every day in an affordable package. Under $100 for both these. This is a gray-handled Endura 4 FFG in super blue steel laminated that my buddy Felix, I believe, picked up for me at the Spyderco factory sale about a year and a half ago. And kind of interesting that I own both of these. I'm gonna digress a little, because not only did Jesus send one of these to my house, but then after I did a little research and became enamored with his knife, I ordered one of my own. I can tell these two apart because mine has the left-hand mounted clip on it. So here's the detour we're going to take, and I have to do this because this is going to be a really, really positive review. And I want you to know where that comes from. I'm going to get Jesus's knife out of here for a minute. We'll just deal with mine as we do the review. When I first started collecting Spydercos, 6 or 7 years ago, the first Spyderco I owned was a Delica 4, Saber ground, black handle, VG10. And the first one I had a big chunk of porosity right here in the tip. I tried to sharpen it, it would hit that pit and it would just go away. The blade kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Now that knife mechanically was really good. I just had a bad chunk of VG10. So I called Spyderco. They said no problem, send it in. They sent me a new one. Well, the replacement knife had a horrible grind, had terrible vertical blade play, and if I adjusted the pivot so the action was remotely acceptable, I had a bunch of side-to-side play. During that time, I bought an Endura 4 Saber ground VG10 black handle. That was an okay knife, but that Saber ground Endura blade is just such a chunk, and it's thick at the tip, and I never liked it. I ended up selling both of those knives. And frankly, I developed kind of an attitude about FRN handled volcano grip Spydercos from Seki City. And there are a lot of other knives I thought were better for less money. Especially if you're looking at Saber ground VG10 versions. You know, if you look cross-eyed at a VG10 blade, it rolls. I hate it for an EDC steel. It's great for a kitchen knife if you're going to be straightening out that edge on a steel every time you use it. You know, it's a great application for a kitchen knife if you're doing that. If it's an EDC blade that you're going to use hard and cut up cardboard and have a little duty in wood every now and then, and you don't want a straightened out ribbon of soft steel to be your cutting edge, VG10 is not a good EDC steel. I just don't like it. So I developed quite a bad attitude about this family of knives because of quality issues, because of poor grinds for EDC. The Saber grind is horrible, and I didn't like the steel. But when we get into this realm, these little sprint runs of different steels, we're in a whole different realm, and it seems like the mechanics of these sprint run knives end up being a little tighter than the base VG10 models. Neither one of these knives have any side-to-side or up-and-down play. They're just great, both of them. So I am really liking this concept. Inexpensive knife, blade really well designed for slicing, high-performance steels. In fact, my attitude for the Volcano Grip Seki City family of knives has changed so much that I also own one of these. This is a little matriarch. Picked up the same day as the Endura. What a wicked little thing that is. Just a fun knife. Not fun if you're on the other end of it, I guess, but it's fun for me. So that's the perspective I come from on this stuff. Now let's start talking specifically about the HAP-40 Delica. They also make the Endura in this same configuration. But I thought, I've been mad at the Delica long enough. This is sort of what got me thinking. Even before I saw Jesus's knife, I've been mad at the Delica long enough, and they make it in some of these cool configurations now. I'm going to start looking for one. And about the time that thought started to gel in my head, this knife shows up on my doorstep. So, I've had ZDP Spydercos, and I've had the Super Blue Spyderco for over a year. So I had to really look up and start to research this HAP-40. And here's kind of the Reader's Digest version of what HAP-40 is. It is a powdered metallurgy steel, and it's distinctly Japanese. And I think the goal for Hitachi was to replicate CPM M4, but they went about it in a very interesting way. So this is from the same family as ZDP 189, has the same sort of pedigree, but it's way different. This steel has cobalt in it, it's tungsten rich, it's vanadium rich, only has 5 or 6% chromium, so it's not very rust resistant. Not super high carbon. I think it's a little less carbon than ZDP. So the objective from Hitachi was really to make a kitchen knife steel that would have those toughness and edge holding characteristics of CPM M4. And it seems like they've done it in a very big way. Here's what I saw that sort of made me really want this knife. There's a video on YouTube, and if you type in your YouTube search bar HAP-40 kitchen knife, you're going to find this video. I think it's about 9 minutes long, of a guy with a chef's knife ground at, I think, 12 degrees per side, edge bevel, and he spends like 6 or 7 minutes with his chef's knife and a cutting board playing the drums and cutting newspaper or phone book paper. His hand got tired of beating that knife on that cutting board edge first before it got too dull to cut phone book paper. And the stuff runs at like 64 to 66 Rockwell. So it's not chipping, it's not blunting, it's not wearing. Interesting stuff. I had to have this. So, and we're not going to get into too much about the Delica itself. We all kind of know this knife. 2 7/8 inch blade, 4 1/4 inch handle, fiberglass reinforced nylon handle. Really great ergonomics small utility knife. Vastly improved in its full flat grind configuration versus the Saber grind, which meant full thickness down to about here and then flat ground edge steeply to the edge. This full flat ground blade in laminated HAP-40 is fashioned out of 90 thousandths thick stock, but if you notice, there's a pretty big step at the spine where the grind starts. It's only about 83 thousandths thick at its thickest point at the top of the grind. Only 3.8 degrees inclusive is the primary grind bevel of the knife. So what do you discern from all that? Well, really thin, really shallow angle, great slicer. And because that HAP-40 is so wear resistant and so tough, we can make that blade that thin and it should hold up. At least if their heat treat is as good as that kitchen knife I saw. So basically we've got the wear resistance of ZDP, the toughness of CPM M4, not great corrosion protection. It is I would call it a tool steel. We'll just have to see how it does. I can tell you this. Sharpening characteristics, very much like ZDP. For as hard as it is, it sharpens easily, maybe even more easily than ZDP, but it had sort of an interesting change. From my 220 stone through my 400 stone, it sharpened easily. Stock removal was easy. At my 1000 grit stone, I started to see that it was fighting back a little bit. And when I went to my 4000 grit Sharpen glass stone, it was kind of tough to get a good polish on, although it takes a good polish. A lot like CPM M4, except stock removal was easier at the lower grits. If that makes any sense, it doesn't make sense to me. But here is an idea of the polish that this stuff will achieve if you want to take your time with it. That tells me that the edge should be pretty keen. So let's kind of look. Yeah, it's really keen. See if it'll push. It should. Oop. It's really sharp. Among the sharpest I can get any steel. That's encouraging. I am really interested to see how this stuff behaves over time. Just to go back, this is the Awesomeness Super Blue. Now, this is a really easy to sharpen steel, and I don't know, it holds an edge better than I thought it would. So, but if you look at those three steels, ZDP 189, Super Blue, and HAP-40, ZDP would be at the top of the wear resistance range. I don't have a ZDP knife, but just imagine it being here. HAP-40 a close second, and then Super Blue being the least wear resistant, but easiest to sharpen, next easiest, and then ZDP a little harder to sharpen. The CPM M4 is hard to sharpen at any grit, super tough, super edge retention. So we have some interesting steel here. The guy in the kitchen knife banging it on the cutting board video called it a VooDoo steel. And if you look at the chemistry, it kind of is. But it's kind of a really excellent performer. You know, I would characterize this edge sticky. If you're a sharpener, you know what that means. That means it does very well in a Murray Carter kind of test. Meaning if you're not paying attention, it will cut you. And when you lay the pads of your fingers on it, they want to stick. It's not a slippery edge like a D2 edge. That's going to make no sense to most of you, I know. There is an interesting thing. Over the other FFG Delicas I've seen, this big step at the spine, and both the knives I have in, they both exhibit this. It's almost like Spyderco wanted to make this stuff as thin as they could. The tip is super skinny. I really toyed with the idea of sharpening this at like 12 or 13 degrees per side with about a 16 degree micro, but I didn't. I just went 15 and 18, my sort of normal FFG Spyderco geometry. But they made this knife to slice, and apparently they thought even for a utility blade, as tough as this HAP-40 is, we can make it super skinny. We shall see, because I didn't buy this to be no safe queen. This is going to be pressed into daily utility blade service. I'm kind of happy to have it. We all have our little emotional battles with our knives, don't we? We have our love-hate relationships. I have certainly had them with volcano-gripped Spideys over the years. And right now, we seem to be reconciled. And that's a good thing. That is all for this one, my friends. I will keep you posted on the performance of the HAP-40 Delica. But for now, have a Merry Christmas. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Let us celebrate His birth with abandon and glorify the Father by our praise. Have a good night. Talk to you soon.